What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. We're going to do another front-end mentor challenge today, just a simple, quick one. We're going to do this profile card component. So if you're brand new to HTML and CSS, this will be a great starter project for you, just to, make a simple project that might have a couple of challenging things for you. But in this one, we're going to learn how to display some things using Flexbox. We're going to be using background images, and then we're also going to be using a thing called background image position, I think it's called background position. And I'm going to show you how to position these little background images, these two circles right here. So that's more of like a not so common thing in CSS that it's good to know how to do. You're going to have projects and designs that if you're a front-end developer, you're probably going to have to do that at some point. So this will be a good little video on how to do that. But yeah, so let's go ahead, guys, and let's get started. So this is the desktop view that we're going to be building. And then this is the mobile view. So it pretty much looks the same, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to go to the Challenge Hub. I'm going to download the starter. And I'm going to download the Figma file. And we're going to be using Figma to look at the design on here. If you're not familiar with Figma, I have a whole video that I just made on it a couple of weeks ago, how to set Figma up as a developer, to use as a developer, not as a designer. And basically that involves purchasing something called Dev Mode, which is like $15 a month. And it allows you to view professional designs from designers. It allows you to click into elements and see some of the CSS styles that go in there. So it saves you a lot of time. It'll show you like the font sizes, the colors of something, stuff that you'll need for building it out in code. And we'll go more into that as the video progresses here. But so I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it Profile Card Component. And then I like to make my own files and then drag files over, like images and stuff, over from Front-End Mentor, just because I like to set up my file differently than they set theirs up. It's just my preference. As you go on, you'll get your own little preferences for when you're building stuff and coding stuff that you'll follow too. This is just how I like to do it. So I'm just going to click, and I'm unzipping the code file that we downloaded for this project, and I really just want these images in there. So I'm just going to drag the images into the folder I created. It's pretty much all I want, maybe the style guide, and that's going to be it. So, and then I'm going to use my folder that I created here. So again, all I did, guys, was I dragged the images and the style guide, and then I'm going to create my own index.html and everything. If you want to just use the files as they come when you download them, that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and open Visual Studio Code with a new window. Drag our project folder that we just created. And we'll start creating our files. So let's make this big. And we're going to need an index.html. And we're going to need a style.css. And that's it. We're not going to be doing any JavaScript for this one. It's just going to be HTML and CSS. We have our images file already, or in a folder, so that's good. So let's get started. Let's make a boilerplate. So I'm going to hold Shift, exclamation, and hit Tab. And that'll give us our HTML boilerplate. We're going to name our web page that we're building here. So I believe in the example, the guy's name is Victor. So let's go back. Victor Crest. So since we know his name is that, let's name our webpage something like realistic. I don't like naming stuff just like challenge, front-end mentor challenge component or something like that. Ideally, guys, if you're trying to get a job or build a portfolio to get clients, you can copy these projects. You don't have to tell the people that you're applying to or anybody that they're from Front-End Mentor. What I suggest you do is you make them as real as possible so that people don't know. So like in their eyes, you did a bunch of work for other people, right? You want to look like you have experience in it, even if you don't. Just a little tip. So let's say view, let's name our thing view profile. Then we'll put a pipe, so shift, and then the pipe is next to the / if you hit shift on your keyboard. And then we'll say Victor Crest. So just to show you what I mean there, if you're not getting why I did that, let me go live on this. Okay. So this is our project right next to our code. And see up here on our title, we could have named it something like Front End Mentor Challenge, but again, make it real, make it look real. So we put view profile Victor Crest with the little pipe here, okay? So that looks like a real project now. If you were to launch this on the web, that it would say that there, which looks real. You don't want it to not look real, because clients and recruiters want to see somebody that looks like they have experience, okay? So just a little tip. So let's go ahead now and link our CSS style sheet. So let's go above our title, and we'll make this big again just for a little bit. We'll say link tab, and we'll say style.css, and our rel style sheet's already in there. I'm using the little shortcuts that come with a app called Emmet that's built into Visual Studio Code. So if you're using VS Code, you should have all the same shortcuts as me. If you're using another text editor, hopefully you know the shortcuts, whatever they are in that. But most text editors have all these shortcuts. You can just start typing something out, hit tab, and it'll complete it for you. And if not, if you're learning, you want to do everything by hand like a hardcore coder nerd, then pause as I go and write it out from hand. That's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and set up our styles here. So I'm going to do an asterisk in my style sheet. Select everything. I'm going to do a CSS reset. So we're going to say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing border box. That just gets rid of all the default styling for browsers that browsers have. And then let's make sure that our style sheet is connected to our HTML correctly by giving something a style. So let's just say an H1, and let's make it say hello world. And then let's go into our styles and say H1 color and red. And let's see if that translated over. Let's minimize this. And there's our web page. So it did work. So our style sheet is connected. So that's all I wanted to see out of that. We can get rid of that now. And now let's see what kind of font we're going to need for this project. So let's go to the style guide. And we need a font family from Google Fonts called Coombe Sans. So let's grab that and put it into our project. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to type in Google Fonts right here. And we already have it here, but I'm going to remove it just to show you how to find it. So go to Fonts over here, and then just start typing it in here. Kumbh, Coombe Sans. And then we want to click on, this just shows you everything here. So let's type in get font, get embed code. I'm just gonna do it through embedding into we're just gonna paste code into our HTML to get this. And if you copy all of this up here, guys, it'll make a communication to the Google Fonts API whenever you load the page. And it's going to say down here, all of this is just code that says, hey, connect us to Google Fonts. Give me Coombe Sans and give me font weights 1 through 900. Give me all the font weights so I can use it wherever I want. So let's just copy that and go back to our index.html. I'm going to paste this in. So we have our link that we created for our CSS style sheet above that. So I'm going to go above that and paste the Google Fonts code in. And then we also need to grab the font family code and the fallbacks, which is down here. So it says font family, Coombe Sans with a fallback of sans serif. You always want to have a fallback font. So let's copy that and put it into our CSS, and I'm just going to put it into our little asterisk here, because again, this means I'll select the whole page. The whole page in this project is going to have this font family only, so we'll just put it there. That's fine. Okay. So let's see if our font translated, and it did. So our font is now different than it used to be, so that's good. Let's get rid of this hello world. And then let's launch Figma and get our Figma file in our Figma. So if you're using Figma. Now, you don't have to follow this tutorial doing what I'm doing with Figma, but at some point I highly recommend that you learn at least one design software, whether that be Figma, Photoshop, Sketch. Just pick at least one and just learn the basics of it, so that if you're a freelancer and you're getting design sent over to you, you know how to access stuff. Or if you're applying for jobs, they're going to be like, what design software do you know? Do you know Figma? Do you know Photoshop? Talk about it. You're going to have to know something, okay? So it's just a good practice to get into. So I'm just going to minimize these right now. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up Figma on my desktop. So you can use Figma. You can download the desktop app for PC or Mac, or you can just view it as a web app. You can go to like figma.com and just use it right in your browser if you want. But so I have Figma here, and I already have the project dropped in here. To get the project in here, guys, just to show you really quick, you just pull up your downloads folder. So I'm on Mac, so this is what mine looks like. If you're on PC, go to wherever you store your downloads. And what you want to do is grab the Figma zip that we downloaded. So looking for the P's. Here we go. Profile card component figma.zip. You want to unzip it and then open the folder after you unzip it. And you want to drag and drop this profile card component, the file that says .fig, that's the actual design. And that's how you want to get it in there. So you can do one of two things. You can import it. You can go home and then click import and then import from computer and get it that way. Just scroll down and grab it. Or what I usually do is I'll just drag and drop it right in here. So I'm going to hit cancel because I already have it there. But that's two ways of doing it, okay? And to get this, so let me open this. To get the Figma file on Front End Mentor, you have to be like a pro member, which is like $12 a month. And then they'll allow you to download the Figma file. And then to actually view the file as a developer in dev mode, it's called dev or developer mode in here. Figma is like $15 a month, which that's not terrible. That's, it's, and if you can't afford that now, guys, that's fine. But it helps a lot. So see that when I open Figma and I open the project within Figma, I have this thing up here that says dev mode, and that's what you got to pay for every month. So it's on right now, toggle it off, and you can't really do anything. Like, it'll give you some colors, but that's all you're going to get. It doesn't really let you click into the project and view elements. When you toggle dev mode on, it gives you everything. So we have you can select the whole design, the whole card, and it'll give me the width in pixels, the height, background color, border radius. See, the border radius is on here, box shadow, everything. Okay, same thing if I click on this heading, it's going to give me the color. Font family gives you everything like in CSS, and you can literally just copy and paste this into your editor when you're building this design. Saves a lot of time, and not only does it save time, but it'll help you make the design that you're building from Figma. It'll make it look exactly like the design. Once you actually build it out into an actual website, they'll look identical, and that's what people usually want. They want their designs to look obviously as close as possible when you build the website out. Okay. So what I'm going to do for the rest of the project is I'm going to have my Figma on my other monitor that you guys can't see. Just know that that's how I'm getting the colors and everything, is I'm just clicking in here and doing it that way. We will reference the design itself from the open web page that I have for the design from Figma. So this. I'll tell you what we're working on next from here. Just because I don't want to keep going back and forth from Figma to that. It's going to take up a lot of time and be hard to follow. So We're just going to keep everything nice here. So that's how we're going to do it. But that is how you use Figma, okay? So let's open up our profile card. And so we have a blank page now. We connected our style sheet and our HTML are connected. We got our reset and we got our font family. We grabbed our font family from Google Fonts. So now let's go ahead and start building the actual project. All right. So first things first, so these are background images, guys. If we look at our images, we have background pattern bottom, background pattern top. These are these two background circles. We're going to do that very, very last. That'll be the last thing we do for this project. For now, I just want that blue background because you can see there's a blue background regardless, and then these kind of sit on top. So let's just get that blue on our background first. So let's go to style.css and grab that blue. So I'm getting the blue color from the Figma file. That's how I know. So I'm going to say, in my CSS, I'm going to say body, background color. And the background color for this is hashtag. We're going to use hex colors. We're going to do 19A, 1AE. Boom. So that looks like that. So that's good. And now we can start building this thing out as we go. Okay. So let's see. So let's just make the card itself. And then I'll give it like a border just so we can see where it is, and we'll go from there. So it's going to be the order of things. How we're going to build this is we're going to make the card with a height and a width. And then the top section is like a top. So this will be a div with a background image. This is a background image, guys, this thing right here. So we'll add a background image to it. Then we're going to another div for the image itself. We'll style that up and we'll bring it down here so it sits on top. And then we'll build the headings with the subheading. And then it's this little line right here. Let's make it big. It's probably hard to see. And then there's this little line right here, this little divider line. And you can actually create that with CSS. So I'll show you how to do that. And then below there, it's just heading, subheading, heading, subheading, heading, subheading, all in a row. And I'll show you how to use Flexbox to center those and make those look side by side, look really good together. Okay? So first things first, let's build the design of the main card here. So it's just basically like a square. So let's go back and go into our HTML. And I'm going to say, we'll say main. We'll use the main tag just to be semantic. And then I'm going to make a section. So it's a section. Hashtag, and we'll call it profile card. So we made a section with the ID of profile card. And then let's take that. So I'm going to copy and paste this. So copy. And then we're going to go below our body and use the hashtag for the ID selector. Paste in our ID name. And it's always a good practice, guys, to copy paste your IDs and class names just to make sure that you're not going to have a typo that doesn't cause a style or something to work. Okay. And then let's see, according to Figma, the width of this, so we'll say width is 350 pixels. Oops, so width, 350 pixels. And the height is what? 375 pixels. Let's say height. 375 pixels. Okay. And we can't see anything now because all we have is a width and a height, and there's nothing to like show where the card is. So let's just put a border just so you can see it. Say border, 2 pix, solid, black. Okay. So there. Now we see what we just built. Okay. So that helps out a lot if you're building stuff and you can't see it yet, guys. Just add a border to it, and so it helps you visualize where it is on the page. Okay. All right, and then what we're gonna do is we want this thing to be centered in the page because right now it's just in the corner like that. So to do that, we'll use margin. So let's say margin left, auto, margin right, auto. Okay, and then that centers it in the page for us. And now let's bring it down so it's not all the way up to on top of the page. we'll do margin for that again. So this time I'll say just margin top, and we'll say 10 rem. So 1 rem equals 16 pixels times 10, so it's about 160 pixels. Boom. Okay. So now we have our card right in the middle of the page where it should be, with some space here. So that's a good start. So now what we need to do is build this top part where that background image is. Okay. So that'll be like a little section. All right, so we'll make a div, and we'll put a class on it of BG image, because this is just basically like the BG image section. That's all it really has is a background image. So we'll say BG image, and then let's go to let's copy that class name down, and we'll go select it with the dot selector in our CSS. And we're going to do background. So we're going to make it a background image. So let's say background URL. And then, so our image's name is images, is our images folder name. So we'll say dot slash, and then access the images folder that we have. And we want BG pattern card. That should be the one that we want. And we'll save, and nothing's going to show up yet because we didn't add a height and a width to this yet. So let's add that. So let's go. First, we got to add in some extra code so that our background image doesn't like repeat or anything, because by default, when you put a background image using CSS, it'll just tile itself and keep repeating everywhere. We don't want that. So we're going to say no repeat. And then we're going to say we want it centered. And then we're going to say center with a size of cover. So center cover, that just means take up the whole space take up the whole width and height of whatever we decide to make this background image div up here. Okay. So now let's say we want the width of this div to be 100%. And then the height, we'll say, it doesn't really tell me in Figma the height of this section for the background image, so I'm just going to eyeball it and say 110 pixels. And there we go. So now we got that top background image part. And then if you look at the design, it has some border radius on top and on bottom. And according to Figma, this is a 15 pixel border radius. But since the top section and the bottom section are going to be kind of different in the divs that we use, we have to make the top two of the background section that we just made, we have to do the border radius on that. And then later on in the video, we'll separately do the border radius for this bottom part on the other div, whatever div it'll be a part of. And that'll make more sense later. But for now, let's just make that top part have that curved border radius. So I'm going to say border radius. So how border radius goes is it goes top left, top right, and then bottom left, bottom right. So knowing that, we would want to go 15 pixels. So that 15 pixels means 15 pixels top left, 15 pixels again, 15, which means 15 pixels top right. So these two should only be the border radius. And then on the bottom, we don't want any border radius because then it's going to curve it here, and that's not going to look right. So let me just show you. If we do 15 pixels all around, see the top and the, we just want the tops, not the bottoms as well. Remember, we just have this right here for, we just have this border here just to show you where the card is. So this won't be here. We want this curved. So let's take away these last two are for the bottom. And now we just got the 0 pix. There we go. So we just made the bottom one 0 pixels. And the top ones have the border radius. Okay? So that's how we want it to look. Again, ignore this border. That's just while we're building it. Okay? We'll take that border away in a little bit. So let's continue. We have our background set and ready to go for that first top section. Now we got to build this image. So it's an image, and then it looks like they used border radius to make it a circular image. And then you can barely tell, but there's also like a white border going all around this image. So we'll make that as well. So going into our HTML here, and let's just, within this div where we have our background image, we're going to make an image tag and give it a class, and we'll call it profile image. Okay. And then we're going to say // go into our images folder and get image of Victor. And then for our alt text, we'll say this is Victor Crest. Save, and there's our image, okay? So now we got to style it up. We got to make it circular, and we got to put that white border around it, and then we got to bring it down so it's like right here, hanging off of here, like in the middle, like here. So it's got to be right here in the center. It's going to be above. So we'll give it a Z index so it sits on top of two other divs in the middle. Oops. So let's go get that done. So let's go to our CSS. And we're going to say dot. And we named it profile image. So let's grab that. And we're going to make it circular. So let's say border radius 50%. Save. And there, that made it circular. And the width and the height of the image according to Figma is 96 pixels. So I'm just going to state that out explicitly in the code. I think it already looks like it came that way, but we'll just make sure that it stays that way. Yeah, so it didn't change the size at all, but it's good to have the width and height there. That's okay. And then we got the width, the height, we got the border radius. Let's give it that white border that goes around it. And according to Figma, that border is 5 pixels, so it's pretty thick. So let's say border, 5 pixels, solid, white. Boom. So now we got that white border. And now we have to make it centered. So since our image is within this div, it's a parent of our BG image div. Let's center it with text align. So let's just say text align, center, save. So that worked because this is the parent div, this section here, and you can use text align just to easily center stuff in CSS, okay? So that worked. And now we're going to put a Z index on our image of 2 so that it's always on top of everything no matter what. And then we're going to use margin top to bring it down so it's like sitting in the middle here. So let's say margin top 55 pixels and then saved, and that moved it down to where it needs to go according to our design here. So now it's sitting right in the middle, okay? All right. So next up we're going to build this second section out. So this will be its own section. It'll be his name, age, and city, okay, underneath him. So that's pretty simple. So the rest of our card is going to have a white background. So let's make that happen. So I'm just going to go to my HTML, and underneath our background image section, I'm going to make a div, and it's going to have a class of white BG, so white BG for background container. Okay. And then I'm going to put the rest of my code within here so it has all white background for the rest of this card. Okay. So let's copy that white BG container class. So let's say dot selector, white BG container. We'll say background color, and it's just white. So hashtag FFF. Oops. Okay. And we don't see anything yet because we don't have any content. So we'll add content. It'll all be white background. We might as well we'll do that later. So now let's do the next section. So within our white background container, we're going to have a div with an ID of We'll call it name age, because that's basically what's going to be in here. And then we'll use a H3, heading 3. And his name is Victor Crest. Okay. See, there's our white background. We save and everything's going to have a white background as we make content. And then it says Victor Crest, and then it says his age, which is 26. But you'll notice the 26 in London and this text down here, it's all in a different like grayish color. It's not dark. It's like a grayish color. So I'm going to get that color. And then we're going to make a utility CSS class that has that color, so that anything with that color we can just add that class onto in our HTML, and it'll style it up right away. Okay? So we're going to do that in a span. So within our H3, we're going to do span, the span element. We'll put a class on it called light text. That'll be the class name. And then his age is 26. So there we go, Victor Crest, 26, and then below it is his city, which is London. So that'll be, I'll say that's an H4 because it's smaller. And again, it's going to have that same class on it called light text. And his city is London. All right. So let's go to our CSS styling, use the dot selector, and let's make our light text utility class that has that text color on it. And that's going to be color, and let's see what Figma tells me that color is. Dark grayish color, so this is the color, the hex color. Hashtag 6B7082, there it is, okay? So now that we have the light text class created, guys, remember, we can just put this class on any element we want to have that color text, so that's really useful. What else? So let's style up this stuff here. So let's grab, are we going to put a class on the H3? No, let's just use H3. So let's say, so let's select our name age ID, because that's going to contain all of this stuff. So let's actually put that up here. You want to try to put your styles, guys, in the order that they appear on the page. So this would go before the light text. And we're going to say for this one, we're going to give some padding top to this of 3 rem so that it's below the image. And then we're going to just do text align center. Okay, so that's how it should be centered. And now we're going to go down and style the H3. So let's say H3, which is his name and the number. And that is going to have a color. See if I can grab that here. So it's got this off black color. Hashtag 2E3349. There we go. So it's a little lighter black. And what else? The font size for that's supposed to be 18 pixels. So I'll say font size 18 pixels. And the font weight is supposed to be a bold of 700. Okay. And then our light text class, also we need to change the font weight because everything with light text has a 400 font weight. So let's say 400. And that just made this skinnier and this skinnier font weight, which is what it looks like in the design, so that's correct. So that's good. And then below our H3 is our H4. Scroll up here. And our H4 is going to have a font size of 14 pixels. So let's see how that looks real time. There we go. So we got London's a little smaller, just like the design. And their font weight is 400. And we're going to give this some padding top because in the design, London isn't so close to his name. So we'll give it a padding top. It doesn't tell me exactly how much. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't tell me exactly how much padding in Figma, but we'll just guess like 7 pixels. It's not that much. Yeah, let's see how that. I think that looks good. Yeah, that looks good. So we'll call it 7 pixels. And now, guys, we got this top part made. Now we have to move on to the next part, which is making this little divider line. And I'll show you how to make that line with CSS. Basically, that's just a div with a height and a background color. That's how you make lines like that in CSS. And it goes all the way across, so it'll have a width of 100%. So let's do that together here. So I'm going to go, let's see, where's my white BG container? Okay, so we're going to go above that div. So let's say, let's just call this, let's make a div that's just literally called divider, because that's all this is. And let's copy this. And we'll use the dot selector, paste that in. And we're going to say width 100%, so go all the way across. And then we're going to say height 1 pixel. And then we're going to say background color. And let's see what color this little line is. So it's like an off-white color, I guess. So I'm going to copy this over from Figma. Hashtag E8E9EC. And our line is there. You can barely tell right now, but it's there. And let's give some spacing between the line and the content. So we'll say margin 1.5 rem top and bottom, 0 rem left and right. Okay. That looks good. Yeah, so you can barely see it probably on your screen, but it's there. It'll be more apparent as we make more content. Okay, promise. But that's how you make lines in CSS, guys. So that's a useful little skill. All right, guys. So now we're on the last part. Right below our divider line, it's just, I'll call it like, I'm going to call this the profile info. So it just has how many followers he has, how many likes, and how many photos. So that's all that is. So we'll call that like profile info, that section. That's the last section, and we're pretty much going to be done. And then we'll do our background images, okay? So let's go below our divider, and we'll make a div. So we'll say hashtag, and we'll say profile info. And then, so within that, so profile info is just going to hold all of this. And within it, we're going to have 3 divs that are each going to hold this follower information. And then we're going to use Flexbox to put them side by side. Okay. So let's do that. So profile info. And then we'll call each div is going to have a class of profile count, because it's basically just the counts of what he has for everything. And let's see. The first one is followers. So it says, so we'll do H3s for these because it's the same size text and styling for Victor Crest as it is for all of these. So those will be H3s as well, just so we don't have to rewrite that code. Say H3, and this one should say 80K. And then below it, we'll just make a little paragraph with the text that's there. And this one says followers. So let's see how that looks. Here we go, 80K followers. And then let's just copy this down 2 times. And the next one is 803,000 likes. So let's say 803 likes. Okay. And then the last one was 1.4K photos. So 1.4K. And then let's put photos down here. There you go. All right, so that's all the info we need. So now we just need to use Flexbox and style up these subheadings down here. So let's go to our style.css. And let's grab this little profile info ID. Say hashtag, and then profile info. And let's do display, flex, align items center, justify content center. There we go. So now they're all side by side. And now we got to make our text centered because they're not centered right now. So let's say text align center. Now everything is centered, but now it's still jumbled up. So what we're going to use now is we're going to use something called column gap. And that's going to put spacing. Column gap is like basically how you put padding in between flex items, okay? So let's do that next to our flex stuff. Let's say column gap, and we'll say 60 pixels. There we go. So now everything is nice and spaced out pretty evenly here. And so we can get rid of this border now, because we can already see where all of our card content is. So let's actually do that, because it's kind of throwing me off a little bit here. Just delete that, save. There we go. And then let's do... We'll put... let's style this, because this is just going to be like a little paragraph. And these paragraphs also... They need the light text class because they have this color. So let's just add that so that we can style it up like that. So let's just say class, light text, and then I'm going to copy and paste this down on our other two. And then we'll just say P because these are the only paragraphs. So, and we'll say font size according to Figma. This font down here is only 10 pixels big, so it's pretty small. Okay. And then it has letter spacing of 1.5 pixels. Okay. So there we go. So now that looks like that. So yeah, it's pretty close. And now we have to space out the paragraphs and these headings down here and then add some padding. So we'll do that. So we'll say on our little paragraphs here, we'll say padding top 5 pixels. And let's see what that looks like. And yes, that looks good. And then we can say profile info, padding bottom like 40 pixels. Let's see. That's pretty good. Might be a little too much. Let's say 30. I think we were right the first time. And now remember, we have the border radius up here, but we don't have it down here because we have to put it on the div for the white backgrounds. So let's go up to our white BG container, say border radius, and we're going to say 0 pix, 0 pix. So 0 pix for the two top ones, but the two bottom ones, we want 15 pixels and 15 pixels, and save. And now we got our rounded corners here like we should have. Okay? So it's looking pretty good. What else? I want this to be a little taller, so let's just add some padding. We'll say padding bottom 40 pix. That looks better. I'm happy with that. I think that looks really good, guys. So for the most part, we're pretty much done with the project. We still have to do, we'll add some mobile styles for mobile screens, just a few, but we also have to do these little background images, which are kind of a pain in the butt, but we'll do them. I'm going to show you how to get it, and then I'll show you how to get it correct for every screen size. You really have to make like a lot of, if you want, you'll have to make a ton of media queries for all the different devices out there to make sure that these background images are in the same spot on like every screen. I'm not going to take like an hour to do that in this video, but once I show you the basics, you can go back on your own and adjust. And if you want to make a bunch of media queries to make it perfect on every screen, go for it, okay? But I'll show you the basics of how to do it. So we have to go up to, I believe we should probably put them on the body. Yeah. So we're going to put these little dots on the body, okay? These background dots. So let's go up to our body and let's say background image. So it's kind of the same as we did before, and then we'll put URL. And the first, so it goes in order. So the top one should go first, the bottom one should go second. So we'll say ./images, BG pattern top, and then you can actually add a second background image, and all you have to do is separate them by a comma. So go outside of the first parentheses, hit a comma, URL, and then you can add your second image. So we'll say ./images, BG pattern bottom. So that'll be our second circle, and we'll save. So you can see our dots are starting to show up now. And then we're going to go down here, and we're going to say background repeat, no repeat, because we don't want a bunch of circles repeating all over a page. And since there's two images, we have to write it twice. So we'll say no repeat for the first one, comma, no repeat for the second one, okay? And now we get to do the fun part, which is background position. So let's put background position. And then this, you can do it in pixels, viewport height, and viewport width. You can do it a bunch of ways. I use VH and VW to adjust my stuff. So let's start with 0 VW, 0 for viewport width, 0 viewport height for the first one. And then for the second image, we'll go comma. And the same thing, we'll put 0 viewport width, 0 viewport height. All right, so we got those. So now let's adjust them. So if you look at the thing, like each one is at each corner, just coming up under it a little bit. So we'll try our best to make it look like that. And to do that, we're going to go full screen, and we're going to use the Google Developer Tools in Chrome. So this is how you can adjust stuff in real time, guys. Let's right click and hit inspect. Go to elements. Click on body, because that's where we put the background images. And let's get out of mobile view. So I'm going to click this to go full screen. Let's bring this down a little bit. All right. So remember, I clicked on the body element, and then it gave me all the styling here. Now we can just go in here and adjust where they are with viewport height and viewport width by clicking on what we want. So just click the first one, for example, highlight it, double click it, and then use the arrows on your keyboard to make it go left, right, up, down. So this is the top one, so we want this one to go this way. So if you can see on the screen, it's going up and down here. I'm doing that with my arrow keys, up and down. So let's put this one over here like this. So -21 VW, and then viewport height, can make it go up, 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 up. Just to go up until we see like the bottom part. There we go. So it pretty much looks like this, more or less, on the design. So I'm just going to keep adjusting it now by toggling back and forth. Yeah, that's good. That's actually good. So I'm going to copy these two and paste them into my actual code before they get deleted. So I'm going to copy those, put those here. And it doesn't look good on smaller screens, as you can see, but we're just doing desktop first. So that's the first one. Now let's do the second one. So let's double click the second viewport width of the background position. I'm going to go up arrow, and it's going to move it over here. So it needs to go over here. And still touching like that, and then it's got to go down. So let's make it go down, and then let's make it go over more. Yeah, so there's that. Copy back to our code and paste. So let's compare that. So that's the design. Let's see how ours look. So not bad, close enough. If you want to mess around with this for for a while, trying to get that perfect, go for it. Again, like in this video, we're not going to spend hours on that, guys. That's how you do it, though. That's the general basics of how to do background images and do two at a time and manipulate where they are, okay? So let's close that. So closing our DevTools, as you can see, it kind of messed that up a little bit. Sometimes when you have dev tools, it like adds fake margins and paddings to stuff. So we can go back and actually just push this up a little bit. So let me click on my body, click on the second one, and adjust the height up a little bit. And 35 VH. So let's go to our code. Say 35. And see how that looks now. There we go. That's a little better. Okay. I really don't like these background circles. I think they're kind of dumb, but that's the design, right? So whatever. So let's see how this looks on mobile. And it already looks pretty good on mobile screens. Just, I mean, these background things, if you want to change them, like I said, if you want to make a media query and change where those are on each device, go for it. We'll do a little bit of that. I'll make it look really, since iPhones are like the most popular for like, I don't know, most users, at least in the United States, you should at least make it look really good on iPhone devices probably. So let's go and do that. So let's go make some media queries down here for mobile. Just going to type media queries in here. And then we'll do at media screen and max width. And we'll do a max width of 1024. So we'll make like a tablet screen size for those background images. And then I'm going to cheat and just paste that in there because I already figured this out before for tablets. So if we go to tablet size, like a Nest Hub or a Nest Hub Max, our little things, they're in like a decent position. They're not, again, I'm not going to spend hours and hours. That looks pretty good. I'm not going to spend hours and hours like perfecting this for every device. You guys can do that if you want. So it looks okay. See, they're going to be in like, it's not like all the way responsive when you use that background positioning trait, but it's good enough. This is mobile phones, so I don't know why we're looking at those, but it looks good. I changed it so it basically looks pretty decent on iPads. That looks decent, right? And then, yeah, that looks really good. And then we can do mobile phones. So I'm going to copy this down. And then we'll do max width of 480 pixels and up for mobile phones in portrait mode. And then I'm going to cheat because I don't want to waste time doing all that stuff again. You guys know how to do it. But I'll just show you. We'll put background position like that. And then we'll go to iPhones. Let's see, iPhone 12 Pro. And there's your little background images there. Okay? So, and it should show up for all the, so that looks decent on mobile phones. You know, it looks semi-close to the design, right? It's not perfect, but it's pretty close for all of them, for all the mobile phones. The only other problem we're going to have is our width of the cards. Yeah, when we get to smaller phones like the iPhone 5, it's too wide. So we're just going to make our main card have a percentage width. So, oh, sorry, not, it's profile card, my bad. Profile, for some reason I thought it was main card. There we go, 90%. So now it fits all screens because it'll be 90% of all screens on mobile phone. So it fits iPhones, Galaxy S8, which is like super old, LG L70. So now it fits all screens no matter what size, width-wise at least. And the height's not a problem, so that's good. And then it doesn't need to be, you know, that's fine. How it appears on screen is actually fine. I was going to make the margin a little less so it's up more, but that looks fine. Okay? So, yes, guys, that's pretty much it. Looks pretty good on all devices now. Moto G power. So, yeah, I'm happy with it, guys. So, that is the finished product. Pretty good. So I'll upload this to Front End Mentor, and I will put all the code for this challenge down in the description. I'll put the video I made for Figma down in the description. I'll put playlists for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you want to learn those from me for free, I will put all my free playlists in the description. Check them out. And I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.